Hi everyone, welcome to Hayley Carr TV. This is a really special episode, my first episode in fact in my Blow Your Mind series, and I'm really excited to introduce you to one of my very best friends and someone who is incredible and has been an incredible help on my own personal health journey, and her name is Jules Galloway. Hi, Jules.
Hi, thanks so much for having me. What an intro.
Oh, my pleasure. So just to let everybody know, Jules Galloway is a really passionate naturopath, a very talented naturopath who likes to tell it like it is as well. That's my own personal opinion, but I know that about you, Jules. She's a healthy eating expert, the co-founder of Paleo Health Retreats, a blogger at julesgalloway.com, and most recently the creator of Shiny Healthy You, Fatigued to Fabulous in 12 Weeks. And it's an online program that I just took myself, and it was unreal. So welcome, Jules. Thanks for being on Hayley Carr TV.
Wow, you make me sound so busy. I love it.
So one of the things that I love talking about with my clients, and not so much on my blog, but I really feel like I want to do this more, is talk about my health journey. Recently I had a health discovery, and Jules is actually one of the people who helped me get on the right path to finding out this health discovery, that I have a blood disorder called pyrroles. And I'm going to write more about this experience because it's literally changed my life. It's not necessarily a recognized situation in the medical profession because it deals with nutrient levels in your body, and the way that I'm actually dealing with it is by taking a really high dosage of vitamins, and it's really, really awesome. But part of the reason why it's so incredible is because I've had like this medical reason now to take my diet and my eating to a completely new level. And I always paid out on people who were like fanatical about their diets. In particular, I will totally testify to being one of those paleo haters because I knew too many CrossFit junkies, right? However, recently, and I'm like pretty healthy as it is, but recently I've wiped out all grains, like not just gluten-free, but all grains from my diet, gone to no dairy and no refined sugar. And I have to say, like, I had no idea how good I could actually feel. And my body has dropped weight that I didn't even know I was holding, like water around my knuckles in my hands and everything, to the point where like my hearing is even better. And in speaking to Jules, like Jules was one of the people who helped me onto the right path to find the people who could help me work out what was going on. It's actually a good link to why I had chronic fatigue syndrome for a couple of years in my past. But what I'm most passionate about sharing at the moment is how just some really simple dietary changes can truly change your life. And this is literally changing my life, and I was pretty healthy already, but also how it can seem like such a mountain to climb up before you start making the changes. And when you have the right support, it's not so hard. So enter Jules. Jules is my friend. And as you know, she's a naturopath. But Jules, I want to talk about a couple of things with you. Firstly, you know, is it just food that can make us better, or is it an all-encompassing kind of, like, what do you think is the chicken before the egg kind of thing?
I think there is no chicken and there is no egg. It's just one big chicken and egg drop soup, right? So
this is why I love you. Yeah.
We have to put all the ingredients in together and just stir it all up and see what comes. Yeah. I think you can't have one thing without a whole bunch of other factors all coming into play. It's most people who've got fatigue or who've got chronic illness, it's a multifactorial illness, which means there's lots of different factors that have gone into making it what it is, which means we need a multifactorial response. Mm-hmm. Right, so if you've got stress plus, and I know in your case, you know, your chronic fatigue happened after you overtrained and you were stressed and you were studying and partying and karateing all at the same time. So there's your multifactorial issue right there. But with other people, it might be that they've had a couple of kids in quick succession and gone back to work, and they're not eating very well, and maybe they've got some stress going on, and then maybe they move house and bang, it appears.
Yeah.
So there's so many different things that go into making up an illness. Illnesses don't just rock up one day and pick a person and go, hey, I'm here. They bubble along under the surface for a long time before they rise up and get you. And so we don't just need to look at what's happened in the near past to work out what's gone wrong. We need to go right back and start again. So when I'm talking about having a response that draws on a lot of different factors, it's not just diet, but diet is a really, really big part. And without the diet, you've got nothing. It's not just exercise, but exercise is a very big part. It's not just mindset and stress relief, but it's also a very big factor. You need to draw on lots of different areas. And this is what natural health practitioners have talked about since the dawn of time, when we always talk about that word holistic. And holistic makes it all sound very wafty and fluffy, like I need to put on some whale music and some chanting in the background and all that sort of stuff. That's all good if you're into that. But that's not what holistic really means. Yeah. Holistic, instead of being spelled with an H, used to be spelled WH, right? And so holistic. So, diet, stress relief, exercise, mindset, all these different things mixed together. Your environment, the toxins that are in your home and in your beauty products. Like, there's lots of different things that can chip away.
Yeah.
And if you think of it like a big rock and you've got one chisel chipping away, that's one thing. But if you've got lots of different chisels all working at the same time, it ends up having a much bigger effect. So if one of your chisels is poor diet, one of your chisels is lack of exercise, and one of your chisels is, lots of stress, then you can see that you're going to chip away at that rock a lot faster. And so we need a response that encompasses all of those things in order for us to really move on. And without all of those things, I think what happens is that people get a little bit better and then they plateau. And I think that's what happened with you to a point as well, where you fixed a few things and you were like sick because suddenly I feel heaps better. And you do feel heaps better from where you were. But then it stops and you're like, is that it?
Yeah.
And then slowly it goes backwards, and you're like, "Hang on, this isn't what I signed up for."
That's exactly right.
Yeah, so that's where we need to add things, and sometimes those things are not just diet, but they might be other holistic things.
Yeah.
Not too much whale music though, please.
Hey, it's whale season, right?
I know. I saw a baby humpback learning how to breach yesterday, and my life is healed.
Come on. I can completely testify for exactly what you just said about how it has to be multiple faceted, because, I used to do the sport. I was an athlete. I did so much exercise and I was fit, but I wasn't necessarily healthy and I wasn't necessarily stress-free. And now I'm a life coach. I help women become happy and confident, but that combined with exercise, I still wasn't fully better. It wasn't just about mindset and exercise. And I ate quite well, but it's not until I really took things quite seriously for myself and just gave things a real push and a real go that everything has completely transformed for me. And I know that diet is not it by itself, but it is the seal in not the coffin. That's a really bad, you get what I'm saying though. It's like the I can only think of negative metaphors right now, like the straw that broke the camel's back or whatever. It's the final thing that has helped me just go completely. And I can't stress enough how important it is to have those basics down to kind of prevent things happening in the future, or to not make the blow so bad if something does happen. Before we go on, tell us a bit more about why you do what you do. I want to know more about your background, your story.
I don't know how long you've got. Is this like a 3-hour program? But I'll give you a bit of a rundown, because every time I tell this story, I think of something new, or I tell it slightly differently, because it is a case of all the different roads have led to this moment,
yeah.
and there's been lots and lots of different things that have happened along the way in my life that have pointed me in this direction. For example, when I was growing up, two of my immediate family members were diagnosed with celiac disease. Now, this was in the 1980s when no one knew what that was really. Yeah. They were actually very lucky to be diagnosed with it because most doctors wouldn't have tested for it. And so I got to learn, at a very, very young age, like I think I was 8 or 9 when it all started, about gluten-free. And so that was one little thing that happened. As I got a bit older, I was quite ill myself, and at that time when I had a bit of a crash and burn happening in my own life with adrenal fatigue, and I was, really partying hard, so there was definitely some self-inflicted stuff going on there as well.
Yeah.
And I happened to hook up with a naturopath. I had a couple of naturopath friends, and they pointed me in the right direction. And so that was the next step. And then I got to a point where I became so passionate about natural health that I decided to become a naturopath. But it wasn't until I was in the 3rd year of my 4-year naturopathy degree that I actually changed my diet in a really massive way. And I did an 8-week liver cleansing anti-candida diet that was gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free, all of that stuff, no coffee, no alcohol, no nothing. And that's when my health started to turn around and lots of bits of the puzzle started to fall into place. So then it wasn't until, several years later that I was, working as a naturopath for a vitamin company, and I was doing a lot of travel and I was working really long hours, that I really crashed and burned again. And then that led to a whole other level of healing. And then, so every time something's gone wrong, I've had to fix it. And each time I learned something else. And then eventually I started a blog because I helped my cousin whose daughter had some very serious food allergies. And she was about to put her daughter under the knife to have an operation she actually was throwing up after every meal, so they decided they wanted to put a camera in there, and they basically diagnosed this little person with reflux. And my cousin rang me to ask me how to prepare for the operation, like what vitamins could I give her daughter, etc. And I said, have you tried gluten-free, dairy-free, sugar-free diet? And she said, no. So I said, hey, well, do you want to try this for just a few weeks? When's the operation? And she said, it's like 4 or 5 weeks away or whatever. Yeah. And I said, let's do it. Let's just do gluten, dairy, and sugar-free and egg-free, because she was a little person, for a few weeks. 48 hours later, she rang me back. She said, it's stopped. The reflux has stopped. The throwing up has stopped. This child was vomiting 3 times a day after every meal, 3 times a day, every day, forever. It stopped. So then she said to me, this information is not out there. How come I didn't know about this? Yeah. You need to start a blog. So then the blog started. Then I found that most of my readers and clients were fatigued women. And that's how I ended up creating Shiny Healthy You, the program. The paleo stuff really only came about because I was researching a lot of paleo recipes, and that's because I eat gluten, dairy, and sugar-free, and paleo covers all of those without you needing to read the ingredient list. And I found that I was putting people on paleo diets more and more just because it was really easy for them to go and get recipe books and help. And, they can go and buy those cookbooks from those celebrity chefs who eat paleo, and it's really easy for them. And then I started noticing faster turnarounds in the people that went completely paleo and grain-free from the people who didn't go completely paleo. And so I thought, there's something to this. Yeah. And so that's what led to me going down that paleo tangent as well. So, it's been huge.
It is seriously amazing. And, I always knew Jules as the paleo girl and the gluten-free girl. And I always was gluten-free. But there's always some tiny little shifts that you can make that can sometimes make a huge difference. I actually... and everyone's different, right? But personally, I've learned recently that I thrive on no grains whatsoever as opposed to gluten-free. So, and the changes that I've experienced, we chatted about it when I was at your place the other night. I can hear better. I didn't even know how deaf I was until all of a sudden I'm like, what is that freaking noise? And I can hear things I couldn't hear before, and it's amazing. It's such a good feeling. And so that's pretty much why we're here having a chat about this today, because you've got a 12-week program, and I just took part in it, and it's insanely awesome and easy. And I want to share you with the world, but I want to share you with the people who I just hope that, just like we've met and you were able to help me find my correct path to get healthy, that someone is watching this and goes, yes, this is exactly what I need as well. Like, I feel like this is how we get better, by being open to opportunities and sharing what we know as well. So the first conversation that we kind of started having around this was all about adrenal fatigue, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I know you're going to be running a webinar pretty soon. Is it next week?
I'm doing one this week on Thursday, and then I'll be doing one next week as well.
Okay, so that's going to be today's blog post, and next week as well. Okay, cool. Because adrenal fatigue is like one of the first signs, isn't it, that there needs to be some changes in the diet and in the lifestyle. And I personally have gone through adrenal fatigue many times since coming out of chronic fatigue, because I could never get above that benchmark that I reached. Yep. And this is an opportunity to not only resolve it, but to step up like to the next level and just experience how good your body is supposed to feel. So can you talk maybe about some of the symptoms that people might be experiencing that would share with them, or give them some insight as to what they would need to do, or that perhaps it's just time to make some changes?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And it's funny, you hit the nail on the head with when you said you didn't realise how deaf you were, because it's one of those things that you don't turn deaf overnight. You become deaf over a long period of time, and you don't notice it happening. It's like when you buy, you come home with a puppy, right? Yeah. And that puppy's growing into a full-grown dog, but you don't actually notice the dog growing. Yeah. But if your friend only comes to visit you once every 3 to 4 weeks, each time they come over, you're going to be like, oh my God, your puppy is so much bigger. Yeah. But you'll never notice it growing, but they do. And it's the same with a lot of these symptoms, is that they happen so slowly and they grow so quietly and insidiously over time that you don't actually notice yourself declining. And one day you wake up and you try and do something that you used to do easily, and you go, hang on, I used to be able to do that. What the hell has happened to me? So we need to take a bit of a, zoom out from the whole situation. We need to take a look at it through fresh eyes and go, these symptoms they're not normal. They are very common. You might have them, your mates might have them, your next door neighbour might have them, your mum's got it, whatever. That doesn't make it right. Yeah. It just makes it really common. It's like snotty noses in kids are really common, but that doesn't mean that they can't be fixed. It just means that there's a lot of people out there who need to sort their snotty noses out through, natural methods or diet or whatever. So with adrenal fatigue, a lot of these symptoms, you'll go, oh my God, that's me. But, when did that happen? Like, coffee doesn't work on you anymore. Those people who go and have a coffee and they go, I used to have that one coffee a day and I'd feel really awesome. And then they needed 2 coffees a day. Then they needed 3 coffees a day. Then suddenly the 3rd coffee didn't work on them anymore. Then suddenly the 1st coffee doesn't even work on them anymore. Then suddenly they still need the coffee, but it doesn't actually do anything. It just, relieves some pain of the withdrawal symptoms, but it doesn't actually perk them up anymore. This is when you're starting to border on adrenal fatigue. There's so many other symptoms like weight gain, but weight gain happens really slowly. People who have a really poor response to stress, and by that I mean when they get stressed out, everything seems to crash and burn. Like, they go through a period of stress and their immune system crashes and burns and they get colds and flus and whatever. That's, that poor resistance to stress is something that gets worse over time as we get older. That doesn't make it right. That just means that we need to stop and take a zoom out and start to look after our bodies again. There's so many things like that. Like I said, repeated colds and flus and infections are a sign that our immune systems aren't working correctly. But if that has been coupled with stress, then you need to suspect adrenal fatigue. But other things like insomnia, people who can't get to sleep at night, people who do get to sleep at night but they wake up at 3 a.m, we need to have a look at why that's happening. And again, if there's been some stress going on, then we need to, bring adrenal fatigue into the mix and go, could it be this?
Yeah.
And that's what my webinars address as well. We go through 12 of the most common signs and symptoms of adrenal fatigue, and I get you to check in with each of those 12 and see if that might be you. And then we give you a little score at the end. So we go through the 12 and you work out how many of them are you, and then we actually tally it up, just like one of those quizzes in Dolly magazine.
Yeah. Totally awesome.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, no, that's cool.
So there are so many things that can happen. Like people who, say if your hair falls out more than it used to, or your nails have stopped growing but they used to be amazing, or you get skin breakouts more frequently than you used to. These are all things that all add up to a bigger picture, and we need to look at why they're happening now at this age, at this point in life, and what's been leading up to that. Are we busy? And is busy okay? Like, is it, busy is something that we all wear like a badge of honor these days, but that doesn't make it right.
Yeah. I think you really hit the nail on the head when you said that just because it's common doesn't mean that it's normal. And that's the biggest lesson that I've had, because I had really bad brain fog. I didn't realize how foggy I would forget what I was talking about halfway through a sentence. I found it a real struggle to focus for long periods of time and sit still. And the brain fog was one of those things like the puppy. It just kind of took over. And now that it's not there, it's like, whoa, it's like having new vision kind of thing. And those symptoms, I mean, they're so, like, to pay attention to those signposts is so important, because you don't realize how good you're supposed to feel sometimes. And sometimes we can feel so tired that we know we've got those symptoms, but it almost feels like too much of an effort to actually change things as well, because we've got adrenal fatigue and we don't really have any more energy to kind of fix what's going on. I definitely experienced that myself. But that's part of the reason why Shiny Healthy You is so good. It's so gentle, and it's a nice, long, gentle process, but not too long. And it's easy. And the way that you describe everything is just so clear and down to earth. No, really, like, it's not so technical that you kind of, I mean, literally, guys, when she's explaining things, she's got a pad and paper and she's drawing it in front of you. Like, it's awesome. It's so real time, But some of the really common things that are like lower symptoms of these kind of symptoms, like the brain fog and the weight gain and the adrenal fatigue, is like gut stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
we need to heal that gut.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit more about the gut and why it's so important?
Yeah. It is said in naturopathy that all diseases begin in the gut.
I believe that.
It's also said in naturopathy that you need to heal the gut and heal the liver before you even, touch anything else. And if you heal the gut and heal the liver, a lot of stuff will clear up, and then you treat whatever's left. So it all comes back to the gut. Our immune system cells are made in the gut. So if your gut's not healthy, then your immune system's not healthy. There's now scientific proof, finally, that there is a mind-gut connection in terms of how an unhealthy gut can create an unhealthy mind. They now know that things like anxiety and depression and mental illness are directly linked to gut dysfunction. So it's great that the science is coming along in leaps and bounds and discovering something that, as naturopaths, we've been telling people for a really long time. We now have evidence to prove it, which is great, because it gets a lot of new people over the line into thinking this way. We love that. So we need to look at whether there is a leaky gut present. And if you've had, rounds of antibiotics or medications, if you've got food intolerances, if you've had a poor diet, if you've had anything like a parasite or bacterial infection. I know a lot of people, they go overseas and they come back with some sort of gut bug. All these things can lead to a leaky gut. So if you've ever had any of those things, then we need to look at whether that gut needs to be healed up, because what happens is your gut is meant to be porous. See, this is where I need my pen and paper.
Yeah.
Your gut isn't just like a big long bit of garden hose, it doesn't just hold everything inside. It's actually very porous, but it only is supposed to let through certain things. So it's meant to let through vitamins and minerals and nutrients. Otherwise, how else does that stuff get into your bloodstream? It gets in via the gut wall. Things like protein is absorbed. Proteins are absorbed through the gut wall, but your gut wall is not meant to absorb everything. There's a lot of particles that are meant to just continue down and end up in the toilet, right? So what happens with a leaky gut is those areas that are meant to be a little bit porous have become a lot porous. So what's meant to be teeny tiny little channels that only let through certain vitamins and minerals and things are now letting in big chunks of, say, dairy protein or something that it's not meant to go through yet. It's not broken down enough that your bloodstream can deal with it yet. It's going through at a time and a place that it's not meant to. And then what happens is the immune system switches on. So those particles go through that leaky gut, and that gut damage has happened for whatever reason, whether it's drugs or antibiotics or whether it's a bug or whether it's just poor food. For whatever reason, it's letting through those things, and then the immune system goes, oh, crap. Send out the guards. So it sends out the guards to go and get what it thinks is a foreign invader. And so all these, T helper cells and all these antibodies and things switch on. And when all those things switch on, they get to the site where the stuff's leaked through, and they go, there's nothing here. There's no invader here. Let's go and attack something. So then, say you've eaten gluten. It's gone through your leaky gut. It's sitting in your bloodstream. These anti-gluten antibodies have come out, and they go, I still want to do something with my day, so those antibodies go and attack the brain, right? And that's when you get your brain fog or your depression or your anxiety or whatever. Now, there's lots of different, there's lots of different antibodies, and there's lots of different things that can come out and attack these foreign invaders. And then what happens is they can then go and attack all different places in the body. So it causes inflammation in all different areas in the body, and it will be different for each person. If one person's prone to joint pain, it's going to attack their joints. If one person's prone to, stuff with the brain, it's going to attack the brain. If one person's already prone to snot and congestion, it might cause a sinus infection or an ear blockage. So everyone's different in how it's going to manifest, but what happens at the core of the problem is it's the same process. It's stuff leaking through the gut, and it's going to a place it shouldn't be. The body switches the immune system on, and then it kind of accidentally attacks itself in the process.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of like the beginning of where we start to experience all these symptoms, and I don't want to freak anybody out here with all the bad things that can happen, right? But this is happening in pretty much everyone's body all the time. So we'll talk in a moment about what the Shiny Healthy You program has to offer, but what are some really quick things that people can sort of start to do to just be aware, to start changing things up and cleaning themselves up? What are just some really basic, maybe 3 to 5 things that people can do straight away?
Yeah, so it's really simple. We need to look at things that heal up the gut and provide nutrients to the body in the meantime to start the repair work. So in order to heal the gut, we have to take away the thing that's causing the damage and the inflammation. So for the time being, we need to take out that gluten and that dairy for sure. You might also want to take out the sugar. You might also want to go full paleo if you suspect that all grains are a problem for you. It's up to you how far you take it, and we'll explain in a minute with Shiny Healthy You. It's an 80-20 paleo program, so if you want to go 100% paleo, you can, and if you only want to go 80% paleo and include a few grains, that's fine too. And you really need to match the intensity of what you do to the intensity of the symptoms you have. If you've got chronic disease, if you've got some major health issue going on right now, then you need to give it a bit more. If you're just doing this for general well-being, or if you've hit a spot where you're quite happy with your health, then you can ease off the pedal a little bit. So, first of all, we need to take out the foods that are exacerbating the problem, and that's usually the gluten, the dairy, and the sugar.
Common offenders.
So then we've taken out the stuff that's making it worse. That's really good. What we can do now is to go in and start the repair work, because the repair work can't be done while you're still causing more damage. You can't, you can't go in and start patching something over if you're also digging a hole somewhere, right? So then we can go in and do things like, supplements, or in a lot of cases food, to heal up that gut. And I'm a massive fan of, fermented foods and good bacteria. We need to put the good bacteria in so that we get beautiful colonies of good bacteria that crowd out the bad bacteria, and that creates a beautiful place for gut healing to occur. So we need to make sure that we've got things like sauerkraut in the diet. You might want to include some fermented drinks like kefir, kombucha, all those sorts of things. But fermented veggies are my favourite because they're the lowest in naturally occurring sugars. They don't use sugar in most of them in order to activate the bacterial, process of the fermentation. Whereas with things like kefir and kombucha, they quite often add a bit of sugar. So I'm a massive fan of fermented veggies. If you've got serious gut problems, you might also want to go and get a probiotic supplement to help kick things along. You might also, want to do things like anything that brings down inflammation in the gut. So if you've got digestive issues, you might look at anything that brings down that inflammation process. So like slippery elm or aloe vera juice or anything like that that's really calming to the stomach. Even things like chamomile tea, peppermint tea, those sorts of things, although they sound so simple, like almost like it's too good to be true, they really are effective, because anything that brings down that inflammation in the gut is going to allow healing to occur. We need to create the space and time for the healing to occur. We can't just put the healing stuff in and expect it to do its job if we haven't created a nice environment for it to happen in. It's like you wouldn't go and do yoga or meditation in a crowded nightclub, although I'm sure some crazy person has attempted it, but you'll get much more benefit by going and doing your yoga or meditation in a beautiful room that's really beautifully decorated, that's nice and quiet and gentle and soothing, right? And so if we put in the good healing guys into the gut, and that gut's already nice and chilled and happy, then of course it's going to work better. Things like turmeric as well can help bring down inflammation in the body. So this is where we start to look at foods as well. Like I've mentioned the sauerkraut, I've mentioned the turmeric. These are foods. Like, food can be your medicine in a lot of cases. And then what we need to do is kick up the nutrient levels. So then we're looking at things like fresh juices and smoothies. I'm a massive fan of both of those things because it's a really easy way to get the nutrients into the body on a regular basis in 5 minutes. So even if you're busy, overwhelmed, fatigued, tired, time poor, that's cool. I reckon you've still got time to make a juice or a smoothie. And if you don't have time for it to make a juice or a smoothie, you actually need to make that time even more because these are the things that are going to heal you. And so nourishing foods, even bone broth, and you don't have to spend 48 hours making it at home. You can buy this stuff now from organic shops and health food shops. Bone broths are beautiful. Anything that's really high in nutritional value, we need to start pumping that stuff into the body so that it heals really good. My English not so good. So that it heals really fast. Compared to if you're just eating, your normal diet of like pasta and cheese and toast and whatever, it's going to happen a lot slower for you.
Yeah, that is so cool. Thanks for sharing those things. And I'm almost certain that if that all sounds really overwhelming and it's too much, because there's so much to take in. That's the thing I found when I started on my health journey. I was like, oh my gosh, there's gut stuff, there's adrenal fatigue stuff, there's nutrients, there's like fermentation. I'm like, what the heck is fermentation? Like there was lots to take in, right? But if we just did focused on one, just upping the nutrient levels, that just kicks you off and starts to make a difference, right?
Yeah, and that's why 12-week programs can be so valuable, because you don't do it all in one hit. You drip feed over a period of time. Once you've done one thing, it's like, okay, now we're ready to do this. Okay, you've got a handle on making smoothies. Great. Let's look at lunch. Let's look at dinner. Let's look at bone broth. Let's look at supplements. Let's look at yoga. Let's look at meditation. So we don't have to do everything at once. I mean, it's taken a long time for you to dig that hole that you're in. So you can't really dig your way out in just a couple of weeks, and overwhelming yourself by trying to do everything perfectly all at once is actually going to cause more stress. And if you cause more stress, you're going to actually make your adrenal fatigue worse. So
some of the things I found really difficult, right, was the fact that people around me didn't quite understand what I was attempting to do. So I didn't have a community that supported me.
Yeah.
I tried to do everything all at once, which was really freaking overwhelming.
Yeah.
I didn't like cooking, so I was pushing up a hill from the beginning. And I had no idea about why I should really be changing all this stuff. Like, I didn't have the basic context around the gut health and things like that. Plus, I wasn't sure where the chicken or the egg came first. Like, do I need to be doing more meditation? Do I need to be changing my beliefs? Do I need to be looking at food, exercise, yada, yada, yada? Enter Jules. Let's talk about the 12-week program because it covers all of this stuff, like literally everything. I'm even one of the people who were interviewed in this thing, so you know it's good, right? No, but let's talk about it. Tell everybody about this, the Shiny Healthy You 12-week program. It's online, so you can do it anywhere for starters, which is awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's a 12-week program.
Yeah.
You have access to it for more than 12 weeks. That's the first thing I need to stress is that if you fall behind, it's going to be okay. One of the most frequently asked questions I get is, I'm going away for 2 weeks in the middle of the 12-week program. Should I bother enrolling? And it's like, it's okay because you actually get access for an extra month after that 12 weeks.
Yeah.
Plus, just about all the materials in there are going to be in downloadable form. So you can just download them and stash them on your computer and keep going at your own pace. So yeah, we'll call it a 12-week program for all intents and purposes. But if you need to take it slower for whatever reason, then the opportunity is there as well. And that's because we don't want you feeling overwhelmed. So what we've done in that 12 weeks is delivered 3 videos a week. So we're going to bring you a video on the Monday, a video on the Wednesday, and a video every Friday. And so they're spaced out, and each one has a slightly different theme. The Monday videos are all educational, so they contain the information, like what I've been saying to you in the last 10 to 15 minutes, like, that sort of information, the knowledge that you need to motivate you to get better, the nuts and bolts of how things work. I draw the pictures, I show you what your plate's meant to look like and what's meant to be on it. These are the sorts of things that we talk about on the Mondays. On the Wednesdays, I have my special guest interviewees like yourself. And so what I've done is I believe in collaboration rather than competition. So I've gone and found, I think we're up to 13 now, like-minded health, fitness and wellness professionals who all have common goal like me to work with women, just like you, who, so these people will come and impart their knowledge in their, whatever their strengths are. So I've got life coaches, I've got yoga instructor, I've got a Pilates instructor, I've got a chef, a spa chef, I've got natural skincare experts, I've got low tox living experts that will tell you how to remove the chemicals from your home. I've got a little bit of everything in there, and although I could have taught people this myself, it's so much more fun to have these collaborations because it brings more energy into the space and it brings in a different point of view and a different way of saying things. So they're your Wednesday videos, so they're really fun because they're always an interview just like this sort of thing, and those people are, they all have a backstory. They've all come from some sort of health challenge or issue. So it's good to know that you're in the hands of people who've been there and who've dug their way out so that you know that you can as well. The Friday videos are all cooking videos, and these are the ones where I get into the kitchen and I teach you how to make this stuff. So it doesn't have to be overwhelming. All this cooking stuff does not have to be overwhelming. It can even be fun, and you might even want to Instagram the results. You never know. So we go in and we make, all kinds of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's all simple. So they're simple whole food and paleo recipes that are quick and easy to make, that just about anyone can do, and you don't need super, super fancy equipment. I can teach you how to get by with just a regular blender and a food processor. If you've got a Thermomix or a high-speed blender, awesome, but you don't need to have them. And so those recipe days are a lot of fun, and they're delivered on a Friday just before the weekend so that you can go out and buy the ingredients and have a bit of a crack at it yourself over the weekend. And so there's also a Facebook group so that we have that community of like-minded people who are going through it with you. And the Facebook group is a really beautiful place. I absolutely love, hanging out in there and holding space for these amazing women who've all chosen to take some steps forward. Some of them are taking baby steps. Some of them are running at the goalposts. Everyone's doing it in their own different way, but everyone has just been so supportive, and there's been some real friendships made in there, so I'm really stoked about that. Yeah. And there's heaps of other resources as well. There's a recipe bank with over 100 whole food and paleo recipes, so that you can just open it up and have a look at what you want to make. They're all really simple. We don't do anything complicated with loads of different ingredients because that stuff would scare me off as well. And then there's even a private Pinterest board with more recipes on it. There's lots of resources in there. There'll be yoga videos and there'll be little workouts that you can do as well. So and I'm always adding stuff because it's always a work in process. It will never be done.
Yeah, it's unreal though. It's the full encompassing holistic thing. It really, really is. I mean, I was blown away by all the different experts that came to the table with their own story and their own reasons why. And the educational videos gave me so much more motivation to go and actually cook things. And I think that, I'm thinking of people in my life who actually really hate cooking, but they want to change. They have all the symptoms, but they hate cooking and they're like, I don't have time for it. I don't want to do it. So who is this for? And would that still work for someone who's like, nah, hate cooking?
Yeah, well, my mission is to get you to love cooking, and I will work tirelessly until that happens.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, I mean, it is really important to understand that you can't live on takeaway food and address some of these health problems permanently. But if you're not the sort of person who loves cooking, I totally understand that. There's things that I don't love doing as well, but cooking is my thing. So I've decided that it's my job to teach you how to cook in the least painful manner so that you can get this, get the job done. Get into the kitchen, get it done, and watch your health improve. So many of the recipes are really quick and easy, and they're using ingredients that they're not too hard to find, so that we can make it as painless as possible. Making smoothies and juices and soups and things, I mean, none of them take a terribly long amount of time to do. We had a race one day. We ran out of almond milk, and my husband was going to go down to the shops and get some. And I said, I can knock together some sort of dairy-free milk in the time that it would take you to go to the shops and get it. So I opened the fridge, I raided the fridge, and I found half a cup of desiccated coconut, and I was like, right, this is on, So I got the desiccated coconut, and I put 1 part desiccated coconut to 3 parts water, and I chucked it in the blender, and I blended it for a minute, and I found a nut milk bag while it was blending, and then I threw it through a nut milk bag, and 5 minutes later I had, a good few cups of dairy-free milk that then I could use for a smoothie. And he, that in that time, he didn't get to the shops and back. So, score 1 for, making stuff from scratch at home. Yeah. But these are the things that I can teach you. You don't have to soak your almonds overnight. There are other things that you can do. You can make dairy-free milk from plain raw cashews that haven't been soaked. You can make it from coconut. You can, there's lots of shortcuts and tips and tricks that you can learn to make it as painless as possible to, cook from scratch at home and to have a healthy diet. Because although, it's okay to eat out and there's ways of making that healthier for you as well, there are going to be times that you still have to make stuff from scratch at home. So,
seriously, there's nothing more empowering than knowing how to do it on your own and knowing how to create food by yourself that's better than what you get at a restaurant. And this is like a power-packed couple of months where you get the support all the way through to learn these skills. But what's most important is, for me, knowledge is power. And when you learn how to cook, you don't unlearn how to cook anymore. You know those skills forever. And I just think it's so invaluable, and everybody in the planet should have this information. It's so, so important, especially taught by you. Such a good teacher. Okay, so when, this starts really soon. So do you want to give people some logistical information, like when it starts, if they want more information, where they can go, how much it is?
Yeah.
Roll forward.
Yeah, so Shiny Healthy You starts on the 7th of September, and I'm closing the cart at midnight on the 4th of September. Mm-hmm. Now, there is an early bird where it's actually available for purchase right now for $97, and that early bird finishes at midnight on the 31st of August, and that's Sydney time. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it will go up to $127, and it will stay there until midnight on the 4th of September. So you definitely have to purchase before the 4th, but if you manage to pick it up before the 31st of August, then you'll get it at an even better price. So the 12 weeks start on Monday the 7th of September, and then it runs for 12 weeks from there, and then after it finishes, you'll still have an extra 4 weeks to keep going if you've fallen behind.
Awesome. And they get it delivered to their email inbox, so they can literally be anywhere. It's not seasonal dependent. It's not Australia dependent. It's just, you can be anywhere and you'll receive it at that time. And it goes for 12 weeks, and then you get to turn everything around in 12 weeks.
Yeah.
It's unreal. And the Facebook community, do they get to stay in the Facebook community beyond the time that the program is finished?
Yeah, I had to make a decision about that, and I really loved the momentum that we had in the group from the last round, mm-hmm. and the energy of those people, and I decided I wanted to keep everybody in there and then add the new people to that group, so that you've got some of the old guard in there now who can lead the way and who can inspire you with some of their stories about how far they've come as well. So I've decided that for the future rounds of Shiny Healthy You, we're just going to put everybody in together, because I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think there'll be new friendships formed as well. And I think it's good to, it's a bit like having a bit of a buddy system. So definitely the old guard in there are amazing. There's been some beautiful transformations and wonderful feedback from those women. So definitely get in there and have a look around at some of their stories too.
Awesome. Jules, thank you so much for sharing so much valuable information today. Even if people can't access Shiny Healthy You, which I really hope that you will just put yourself out there and have a go at this. Even if you can't, I really hope you can just take at least one of the tips that Jules has given us today and apply it, because honestly, one step forward in the right direction and not looking back is going to change your entire life. And the more you can empower yourself to do that, the better everything is for everyone. So thank you so much. Do you have anything else you want to add before we go today?
Well, I like what you said about one step at a time, and I do agree. Do one thing, nail it, and then move on to the next thing. Even if it's eating a big spoonful of sauerkraut every day, if that's like the one thing that you come away from this with today, that's a good step forward. Or 5 minutes of breathing a day, or 10 minutes of yoga. Just pick one thing and just completely nail it, and that will give you the confidence to move on to the next thing as well, and to keep that momentum going.
That's so awesome. Thanks so much, Jules. And you can find Jules at julesgalloway.com. .au? Just .com?
Just .com. And you're going to put up a link for Shiny Healthy You, aren't you?
Of course, Fantastic. I'll put up a link there. And that's all for today. Thank you so much, Jules, and I'll see you guys soon. If you have any questions, post them in the comments below. If you like this video, please feel free to share it with anyone who you think it might benefit or who might love to come and join Shiny Healthy You. And other than that, I'll see you soon. Thanks, Jules. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Bye.
Pleasure.